Coming up on the world today. Iran launches new strikes on allies of the United States, continuing targets on energy infrastructure in neighboring Gulf states. Khamenei, son of the late Iranian leader Ayatollah Khamenei, named as the new supreme leader of Iran, and G7 nations to hold emergency meeting to discuss surging oil prices. Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin in the Middle East, where Iran is launching new strikes on allies of the United States. Qatar's defense ministry says its armed forces have successfully intercepted 17 ballistic missiles and 6 drones from Iran without any casualties. Earlier, an explosion was reportedly heard in the Qatari capital of Doha. Also, Turkey, the UAE said that have also intercepted Iranian missiles in their territories. This comes as the benchmark oil price soaring above $100 per barrel for the first time since 2022. Meanwhile, Israel says it's carrying out attacks on 3 parts of Iran while also hitting Lebanon, leaving in its trail destruction of lives and property. Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF spokesperson, earlier urged people to evacuate, saying the IDF was acting forcefully against the terrorist infrastructure belonging to the Al-Qaeda Al-Hassan Association. Israel says Al-Qaeda finances Hezbollah military activities, something the group denies, saying it only provides small interest-free loans to ordinary Lebanese people. On Sunday, Lebanon's health minister Rakhan Nasdin said Israeli strikes on Lebanon had killed 394 people over the past week. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has warned of the consequences of the conflict on the UK economy. Mr. Starmer said the longer the war with Iran lasts, the more likely it's that there will be an effect on every economy in the world, including Britain. Speaking at a community centre in London, the Prime Minister said he understood people's anxiety and that his government is assessing the risks, monitoring and talking to the UK's international partners about reducing the impact on people in the country. He argued that the economy was in a better place to withstand a shock to energy supply than in 2022, when Russia's invasion of Ukraine led to prices soaring as well. Global oil prices have soared in recent days over fears the US-Israeli war with Iran could lead to lengthy disruption to energy supplies. The US president has been critical of the Prime Minister for not allowing the US to use British military bases for initial offensive strikes against Iran. On Monday, Sir Starmer said that the two countries were working together as always have, but added that decisions about what is in Britain's best interest are decisions for the Prime Minister of Britain. Meanwhile, Mr. Starmer and the US President have spoken for the first time since the US President angrily criticized the UK's response to joining alliance with the US over Israel's strikes on Iran. Number 10 released limited details of the call, saying that both leaders discussed the situation in the Middle East and military cooperation between their countries. On Friday, the president said the UK was considering sending aircraft carriers to the Middle East, but dismissed the prospect. Writing on social media, "We don't need people that join wars after we've already won," while labeling Britain our once great ally. Mr. Starmer had previously said the UK would not join offensive actions, but agreed to let the US use the British bases for defensive strikes on Iranian missile sites. And Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the late Iranian leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been chosen and named as the new supreme leader of the country and in his father's successor, beg your pardon. Ali Khamenei was killed in US-Israeli strikes. Unlike his father, the 56-year-old has largely kept a low profile. He has never held government office nor given public speeches or interviews, and only a limited number of photos and videos of him have ever been published. But for years, there have been rumors that he held considerable influence behind the scenes in Iran. U.S. diplomatic cables published by WikiLeaks in the late 2000s described him as the power behind the rose, who was widely regarded as a capable and forceful figure within the regime. Born on September 8, 1969, in the northeastern city of Mashhad, Mojtaba is the second of Ali Khamenei's 6 children. He received his secondary education at the religious Alavi school in Tehran. At 17, Mojtaba served in the military for several short periods during the Iran-Iraq War. According to Iranian media, the 8-year bloody conflicts made the region even more suspicious of the U.S. and the West, which supported Iraq. In 1999, Mojtaba went to the Qom, a holy city which is considered an important center of Shia theology, to continue his religious studies. It's notable that he did not wear clerical clothing until this time, and it's unclear why he decided to attend a seminary at 30, as it's more usual to do so in one's younger years. Well, Mr. U.S. President Donald Trump and some world leaders have expressed mixed feelings at the appointment of the younger Khamenei, son of the late Iranian leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as his father's successor. Mr. Trump had been vocal in his opposition to the transition, labeling Mojtaba Khamenei an unacceptable success. In interviews leading up to and following the announcement, Mr. Trump dismissed the 56-year-old cleric as a lightweight and insisted that the U.S. should have a say in who leads Iran to ensure regional harmony and peace. The U.S. president had warned that any leader chosen without U.S. approval is not going to last long. He compared the situation to his administration's involvement in Venezuela, suggesting a preference for a leader who would cooperate with the U.S. and Israeli interests. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth echoed this hardline stance, suggesting that Iran is under immense pressure and may eventually have no choice but to move towards unconditional surrender. China and Russia have called for the respect of Iran's constitutional processes and sovereignty. China explicitly stated its opposition to the targeting of the new supreme leader, emphasizing the need for regional stability. Regional allies like Hezbollah and Houthis groups have aligned with Iran's axis of resistance and have sent messages of allegiance and congratulations, framing the appointment as a sign of resilience against Western aggression. Conversely, some regional leaders, the Arab League, have expressed concern that the appointment of a known hardliner who has deep ties with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been say that prolonging the war in Iran and further destabilizing global energy markets is not acceptable. And G7 nations will hold an emergency meeting today via video conference, though, to discuss surging oil prices as crude oil jumped above $100 a barrel and stock markets slumped over the escalating U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. Finance ministers from leading industrialized countries, including UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, will gather to discuss the economic impact of the conflict. Global oil prices reached nearly $120 on Monday, over fears of a prolonged disruption to energy supplies through the key Strait of Hormuz shipping route, and the UK's FTSE 100 all share index fell about 1.3%. Let's get more perspective on this, and joining us for this is global security analyst Dixon Osage. Welcome to the World Today.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Right, so the flames of war is spreading in Iran, and there have been more strikes on that country today. Of course, there has been a new supreme leader chosen, and that's the youngest son of the supreme leader that was killed a couple of days ago. Now the U.S. says it's not acceptable, and that the President Trump said that he wants to be involved in choosing a leader that will, make the region more stable. I wonder what your thoughts are on this election or selection of a new leader, a supreme leader in Iran. Do you agree with the U.S. president that the choice needs to be for someone who is more stable? What is it that he has against the younger Khamenei?
Oh, thank you very much. I think President Donald Trump is acting on his own capacity as the president of the United States of America, also passing it very loud and clear that he would not accept any nomination from the Iranian people. Like you rightly said, this is what we classify as selection. But it's so sad that the plan did not go the way the Americans looked at it. Because what I see happening now, the appointment of Mojtaba is what we classify as succession under fire, which simply indicates that the regime is still under survival, and also they are not going to lay down their arms anytime soon or try to, have a regime change. So that is like a big blow to the strategic movement from the, Operation Epic Fury and also the Roaring Lion operations, both from the United States and also from the Israeli government. So for me, I think that the Israeli-Iran war did not start today. I think it dated back since 1979 during the Iran revolution, when Iran's new leadership at the then, that is the late Ayatollah, adopted a strongly anti-Israel posture. And up to now, Israel and the Israeli people and Iranians, they have not been in good times. So for me, I think this is a disturbing situation. We have never thought that in our lifetime we will be experiencing maybe a near miss World War III. But I pray that this does not escalate, so that we'll be able to avert World War III in our time.
Right, and the U.S. president called the younger Khamenei, that's Mojtaba Khamenei, a lightweight. Do you agree with this? We had some background information that, over the years has been had more weight, but in the background while his father was in charge. Do you think he's a lightweight?
For me, I don't think it's a lightweight, because one thing about engagement is that never underrate your enemy. I agree, the Americans are superpower. The Israel have done a lot of works within that region, and the methodology and the operational tactics these two countries have adopted is a subject of studies, and that is why we need to see how our military also look at having a global intelligence-driven aggression against the enemy of our state. So for me, I think Donald Trump is good at talking, and he says what he want to do, and he also do what he says. So for me, I think Mojtaba is not just a boy. Mojtaba has been there from time immemorial as well. He has also served in the Iranian Revolutionary Guards during the 8-year prolonged war. So for me, I think it shouldn't be a write-off. But for the Iranian people, it's left for them to take a departure from this present, selection of government or to their supreme leader, and see how they can also go into the ballot boxes and choose who leads them. But if they want to take the part of the present Mojtaba, I think is also going to cause a lot of conflict, and this war is not going to come to an end anytime soon.
Right, and what do you think of the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's stance on not being actively involved in the war in that sense, but saying that it will allow the United States use its bases within the region to launch attacks on Iran, if it will? But the U.S. president is not happy about that, and thinks that the U.S. and the U.K. are no longer as tight buddies that they once were.
Well, for me, I think Starmer is trying to play the good guy, and I do not blame him, because we're talking about a war situation here. If Starmer, United Kingdom, a country that is well respected all over the world, gets involved, I think it's going to create room for escalation. And I think the methodology these leaders or some of these world leaders are adopting is de-escalation methodology, and I think that is what Starmer is what we're looking at. But he has given the United States of America their a base where they can launch their attacks or whatever the case may be. But he doesn't want the United Kingdom to be directly involved in this conflict, so that he will be able to have a methodology or a de-escalation methodology, so as the United Kingdom should not be drawn into this war. But I think the tactics in which the Iranian are adopting, they are trying to, carry out an escalative process whereby they are hitting the Gulf of Guinea and other Arab nations so that they'll be able to, cause global concern and as well, draw a lot of people into this war and force the United States or or Israel to, stop the aggression against the Iranian people. So for me, I think the Iranian government they have been tactical about this, and that's why they are hitting hard on the Arab nation, which was never supposed to be. And I think they should stop that escalation methodology to avoid World War III.
Right, and earlier the Iranian president had said that Iran had finished using up its oil stockpile of weapons and ammunition, and now it's time to for the real deal to launch. To launch its new ammunition against its enemies, and perhaps they were waiting for a new supreme leader to be chosen before beginning to take action. Now, a lot of people have said that Iran is just making mouth and it's not going to do anything. Do you also think Iran has no bite and that it's just barking?
Well, they have bites. They've been biting the Israeli people. A lot of their missiles have hit some targets, so that's a bite, And also some of their missiles also, hit some parts of the Arab world, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait. That's a bite. In a battlefield, you don't underrate your enemy. Whatever the case may be, your enemy will still have a bite, no matter how powerful you are. The United States have registered about 7 casualties. 7 of their brave officers have made, passed during this conflict. So for me, I think the Iranians should not be written off. But for me, I think they've made a lot of mouths in the past, and how their leader was killed within the first 24 hours of this conflict was a very disturbing situation, because we had expected if you have a lot of arms and ammunition, as you claim, or nuclear weapons, I think you should be able to have a methodology or intelligence-driven measures in place to ensure that your leaders are not killed in action. But what Israel has been is they are carrying out a form of a demoralizing strategy and stabilizing strategy. That's why they are going after their commanders, chief of defense staff, chief of army staff, chief of naval staff. Even when the chief of defense staff was eliminated, 24 hours later, they appointed a new one. They eliminated the commander. So Israel are adopting a strategic move this battlefield in order to dissipate the morale of the Iranian forces, and they are achieving that. So the Iranian government should, weigh in and, carry out their own self-assessment to ensure that they have the capability to go into this battle. If they know so well that they cannot go into this battle, because we've seen a lot of their commanders and their generals being killed so cheaply by Israeli bombardment, I think they should, tread on the path of negotiation to see what really the Americans wanted. For me, I think the causative factors of this battle is the area of nuclear, armament. The Americans and other parts of the world never wanted Iran to have a nuclear bomb, simply because they believe that they are the world #1 sponsor of terrorism. And if a world #1 sponsor of terrorism has nuclear weapons, that means the world will not be a better place or a safer place. But some have the argument that Israel also has nuclear weapon, but Israel is having a stance, the ambiguity, nuclear ambiguity stance. They never say they have or they never have. They just sitting on the fence. They never accepted it. They also have nuclear weapons. So for me, I strongly believe that this war should be discussed, and the Iranians should weigh in their strengths, weigh in their capability and capacity. If they believe they can take out Americans and the Israeli in this battlefield, they should go ahead. But if they know they cannot, I think they shouldn't. They should just go back to the drawing board. No, there's no loser, there's no winner in any given war. All what we need is peace, and peace is the victor in any given battle.
Yes, and talking about drawing boards, I'm not sure the Iranians, shortly, not too long into this war, their supreme leader was taken out. That's as weak as I believe it gets, because one would think that their defenses were stronger than that, and perhaps that the United States is holding back and not having a full-blown attack on Iran yet, because if their leader can be taken out so easily, barely a week into the war, then the world is wondering what they're defending. What do you think about Iran's defense capabilities in this war. Do you think Iran is also holding back as well, and is trying just to be, a little bit patient and trying to see what the future unfolds?
Fantastic question. The military consists of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and one of the strongest forces in Iran is the RGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And I tell you that their defense structure has been dissipated by Israel in the first 12 days war that took place in June 13, 2025, where we see the Israelis going after their commanders and taking out all their commanders. Now, the Israeli has a lot of powers from the sky. That is their Air Force component. Is very effective because the naval component of America is shielding Iran from the sea. The air component, they are bombarding most of their critical infrastructure from the sky. And as we speak, I don't think presently we don't have boots on the ground from both the Israel and the Americans. If there's boots on the ground, I tell you, the Israelis and the Americans perhaps will also suffer casualty because the Iranians have fighting capability and also fighting posture. But one of their weaknesses is the air capability. Their air capability is very weak, and when your enemy has more power from the sky, you can't be looking at the sky at any given time, and they will take you out from the east, west, south, and north, and that is what the Iranian people are suffering, the air capability of the Israeli, and also the intelligence-driven capability as well, because I give it to Israel in the area of their defense. I'm not celebrating war or celebrating the victor here, but their intelligence capability is one of the best I've seen in my entire lifetime from my own perspective, because how they go after these commanders and take them out one by one, getting their location and geolocating them, and sending the deliverables to go and take them out is a subject of studies by our own Nigerian military in the area of engaging the enemy of our state. So for me, I think the Iranians should weigh in and also assess the criticality of this war. And in any given situation, you must carry out the criticality of the operation, the accessibility of the operation, and also your opportunity and your weaknesses. For me, I think the Iranians for now have been decimated by the air component of the Israeli and American forces, and I think they should strongly assess this war before it gets too late. Surrendering in a given war is not a loss. It's a form of taking, just take the shame. Let them just take the shame and surrender, and give up their nuclear capability, so that the world will be a better place, because it's escalating and it's a disturbing situation. Forex prices is skyrocketing. As of today, I think $119 per barrel, and also the transit route where most of this world oil is being transited, has also been hit. So if this war continues, there's going to be a global, outcry, and also oil, energy disturbances all over the place, and we are going to suffer it. It's going to affect everybody. Nigeria is also suffering from this war as we speak right now, because I bought fuel a few days ago at about 990 something naira for a war I never, wish to start. So it's going to hit everybody. So our prayer points should be, let the war stop now.
Right, Dixon, I'm sure we're starting to feel that here in Nigeria, those oil prices. I'm sure, I guess you are too, where you are speaking from, as we're struggling to buy fuel into cars and to power generators when there's no electricity. Yeah. I must thank you again for your time.
Of war. Yeah, thank you.
Let's move on. Former rapper and ex-Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah's party is on track for a landslide victory in parliament following last week's elections in Nepal. From the results of the polls released on Saturday, the 35-year-old Shah unseated full-time Prime Minister Sharma Oli Japa. That's a traditionally safe constituency for the 74-year-old's Communist Party of Nepal, but his was not the only victory for his Rashtriya Swanatra Party. Ganga Thapa, president of the country's largest party, Congress, also lost his seat. Shah's supporters are also celebrating on the streets of Nepal, cheering and ringing bells, his election symbol. The vote on March 5 came 6 months after youth anger and disillusionment over elite rule, nepotism, corruption, and inequality sparked deadly protests that toppled the government. However, not all results are in yet, but so far, Shah's ISP has won 125 of the 165 direct vote seats and 58 of the 110 proportional representation seats. And that's the world today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.